record. Go ahead, Andrew. What can we answer for you, or what's coming up?
Well, I've been watching a lot of near-death experiences on YouTube videos. I was getting really interested in that. And I was kind of curious if somebody, how you could maybe kind of duplicate that without dying or whatever. Can you get that experience without having to die or not?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's guided meditations, there's breath work, there's the trips. There are all of these processes that they do in Egypt, that they also do in South America. All through South America.
They have different ones in different places.
Different ones, different places. They don't necessarily have to be with plant medicine either. A lot of people simulate it now through plant medicine, but you don't need it to do it with plant medicine. You can do it with your breathing, with and rebirthing in water. Rebirthing was probably for the last 50 years, 1970s or so, people went through this experience, and we know that your heart can stop. One of my dear friends, Mani Vital, was a breatharian, and he would on a regular basis meditate into and be still, no heartbeat, nothing for hours. And he would go into these places. His death was, he wound up dating someone, a beloved being. He hadn't trained her well enough to let him stay in meditation. She got terrified and at some point called in the paramedics or some sort of, but I don't know the exact story that goes with that. But you can, in meditation, without plant medicine or anything else, go into states of samadhi and states of near death, slowing down of your heart frequency, of your breath frequency. And it's great to do it with someone. And you can have it monitored if you want to. What that means is you can, at some point, have it recorded that you had no heartbeat. But you will know, because you will have the experience of the absolute oneness, the timelessness. And it's a little bit of training your body to get to that level of energetic connection with oneness rather than just the body, the spark.
And being aware.
And being aware at the same time. And Ekankar they teach this, and so there's a few other groups that you go into the Masonic teachings, the mystery school teachings. They have formulas for, and thousands of people. And I think we've probably both helped a lot of people go into those experiences, clients, friends, that wanted to know the next level. Again, it takes training to get there. And you don't have to have it be violent or displeasing. It does require work, though. It's often simple, and you expand your ability to get there over time.
And a very deliberate mindset.
Yes. Did that answer your question, Andrew?
Yeah. I was kind of interested in how to do that. It sounds like there's quite a process in order to do that, though.
Right. And again, for each person, it's a divine spark. And for each person, it's a different type of journey. So if you're a 360-degree being and cylindrical, there's basically 12 different gateways through which you can enter into the near-death experience. So it really is an individualized thing. And I guess there are probably books and resources on it. It's ideal to work with someone, partly because two of like mind get together. Also, you want to be with someone that's that can help you grow in the process that's already done it themselves.
Right.
Yeah. And so there's at least, and again, I know of 12 different gateways. And again, that the multiples of 3. There's, again, the mystery school teachings. They're in there. And so the first step is to know yourself, to really know what informs you and what affects you. That's one of like the first set of skills. The second step is to be able to turn into a person that's able to give without expecting anything back, a person that's able to receive without feeling there's any strings attached, a person that's able to witness everyone around them give and receive and only see it as an expansion. I call that the energy of the 3 graces, to really embody, like those are some of the basics to get down before you start going into this next work. Being able to know what informs you versus affects you when you're on the everything, when you're on that side of the body. I want to add a little something, because Jill Bolte Taylor wrote this book called Stroke of Genius. It's such a brilliant book. It's such a brilliant TED Talk. If you get a chance to see it, I highly recommend it. She was a neuroscientist studying neuroscience to help make sense of what happened to her brother who had mental illness. At some point, she has a stroke.
Oh, I saw that.
Oh, it's such a beautiful one.
That blew me away.
It's so beautiful because she was so intentional in her purpose.
Oh my God.
She created the near-death experience inside her body to be able to go and fulfill her life purpose from the inside out. She was healthy, right? She worked on a treadmill, she ran, she exercised, she had none of the factors. She was young, 30-something, that would cause a stroke. So
but she was in that field studying it.
She was so
Amazingly
purposeful and intentional that her body created the stroke on one side of her brain so that she could, with the other side of her body, experience total oneness, total connection with the whole of cosmos. She knew everything was beautiful. And that expansion of stepping into those near-death experiences, Anita Morjani, right? Near-death experience for her as well. Again, she explains her journey so beautifully. We don't have to do it in illness. We can do the near-death experiences, which is what the pharaohs did, and they left a trail for us. And what the warriors of the Aztec, the Mayan, the Incan cultures did, they left a trail for us to be able to understand it. To access it, though, to fully access it, you've got to be in those higher understandings of your purpose, yourself, your knowing of what informs you versus what affects you, and then to be able to be in the rightful place of exchange of energies. So the ability to give, to really surrender into the give. You give as the grace of giving for the sheer joy of giving, and you are able to receive in that formula as well, no strings attached, receiving for the pure reception of that. And then the witness, and much like a Vesica Pisces or a conch shell, right? You start at one point and it elevates to the next point. Done perfectly, the way that giving, receiving, and witnessing occurs, all 3 of those energies organize the self to the next highest level. It's such a gift to participate, and those are some of the pre-work before going into the near-death experiences. And then to really, what else would you add to that?
In my case, this is what I find interesting. My death experiences, I believe, were caused deliberately by my guides. That they said, now
Yes.
you're going a different direction. This is where you have to go. You're not going where you're destined to go. And I think that there's something greater also that is with us, that it should be beckoned, like you can
call it,
call
yes.
to because they were all, every one of them, like, was something that I didn't orchestrate, but definitely changed my life from the very next day. Yes. I was in a different country, in a different place, doing a different thing, doing a different thing. So sometimes if you ask your guides that you want dramatic change and you want to really know where you're supposed to be, yes. Where am I supposed to be? Take me there. Take me there. You know,
and all of the resources show up and everything shows up for you
and
to be able, it's that.
It's like you break out of a new egg all of a sudden.
Yes, exactly. That whole process. I think that's a very important process. What Jill Bolte Taylor, right? Having that great call. It was sudden. It was from she was able to dial the phone while in a stroke back then, right? To dial it, not having the number memorized, not having a little thing that you could just press, like developing a system. And so Helen's system is connected so deeply with the unseen world and so connected in service. I love this. She shared this in the interview in Miracle Makers TV when we did it at UBN Studio. She shared that she told the angels to command her body and take her where she needed to go. And so all of a sudden she'd be driving.
I was asking Michael, just a statue of Michael in the church, but I saw he was crying. And I said, how can I help you?
So she walks into a church and she walks in and she sees the statue crying, which is so beautiful. It's such and so she says to Michael, how can I help you?
You're an angel. Why are you crying?
Yes.
And he said, I need people. I need people that can physically do things for me. And I say, take me. I'll work for you anytime you want.
And so
I don't want to see you cry.
I don't want to see it. From that space, what showed up and what got created was extraordinary. She would be driving a car, pull the car right over or in the middle of the road, run out, jump through bushes, rescue people out of swimming pools, right? Or drive around in circles and then see an accident and be able
to... at the same place that I was, but
yes.
I had to keep coming around for some reason. And then the lady crashed, the car's on fire. I run in, I pull her out of the car. As I was backing up,
yes,
I put in my car, the thing exploded. But
yes.
3 people I saved from pools, babies, and exploding, and so, but not even knowing anything about it.
And so this is wholehearted, in earnest, giving yourself over, and the angels will use you. And it's an extraordinary thing, because today an episode of Helen's was released on exploring the human journey, right?
I'm coming out of the closet,
right? And the extraordinary thing about this is today is St. Helen's feast day, right?
My brother's like, hey, St. Helen, are you coming down to have breakfast with us?
And again, the producers of the show, it's such a synchronicity of the universe saying, Helen, you were brave, right? There it is. For me, the story of being at the Oscars and that being on stage versus being in the audience versus being someone who's helping to facilitate the Oscars, right?
Yeah.
Depending on how brave.
How did you show up?
She was brave enough to go on and get on with these documentary filmmakers, come out with these special talents. And so, of course, the day that they release it is St. Helen's Day.
They didn't know.
Right. And we're going to be in Sedona, September 28th and 29th. And I looked up the feast day for September 29th. We're part of Transcending the Matrix. Miracle Makers are transcending the matrix. I'm the keynote speaker down there. There's all kinds of information on it all over. So, and I'm happy, I will put those in the links if you're watching this on video. But the whole point of I'd never looked up what my birthday's feast day was. And it turns out it's Saint Michael's, Archangel Michael's feast day. And it's all the
Wow.
feast day of all the archangels. And we've celebrated feast days for years. And there's a process in the mystery schools for calling in these higher energies to be able to command your life. They occur
To have a direct contact.
Direct contact, and the energies supersedes religion. It's really important to understand Saint Michael's, all of the angels. All of it was written before existed, was spoken about, drawn about, before there was religion.
Angels, yeah.
Right.
Before they co-opted.
Before it got, and so one does not have to be linked to the other, right? You don't have to have a religious belief in a certain faith to really be able to see the invisible world. The invisible world, if, like, this is how I love to say it, which is if God wanted us to have a particular faith, he would have stamped it on our forehead, like, you know, a cross or a Star of David or a whatever it was. Instead, we've got 4 codes in our DNA. And those codes, those 4 codes respond to love, respond to gratitude, respond to forgiveness, respond to letting go, surrender, energy. And your DNA relaxes and opens up and becomes more possible the more you're in play, the more you're in relaxation, the more that you allow something greater than yourself.
I say just say yes.
Andrew, we gave you such a long answer. Is there anything else that we can share?
Yeah, can you expand a little bit more on how did the angels prompt you to know what to do? How does that happen? How do you?
Okay, the first one, the first few I didn't pay attention because I didn't know really what was happening. And I'm doing an activity, and let's say this time I was walking down the streets in Palm Springs, and I went to get my dog to take the dog out a little bit quick and go back to my job. But so I was supposed to go and come back, but I sat there and I sat there and I sat there and I sat there, and I was in this in a daze. You know, I'm supposed to be take him out, and then I said, okay, come on, let's go back. As I went back, it's always like I go around it a couple of times, and then it happens. You know, I go back, and this man, a gardener, had just fallen from a tree, and his head. You know, he hit his head, and his little son was there, and I ended up holding him up. He was drowning in his blood, and I got behind him. I was holding him up and helping him breathe. And I told his son, I said, call him. I said, call him, papa, call him back. So I was living in Mexico, and I didn't have any first aid training or anything, but whatever I did kept him alive until the paramedics got there, and they said I did all the right things that kept him alive. If he would just stayed laying down on the floor choking on his blood, he would have died. So they said you saved his life. Another time I was walking, and out of nowhere I just go through somebody's garden, go through the bushes, out of nowhere. And there's a little baby floating, and I scream outside. The lady's on the phone, and I bring out the baby and revive him. Another time, I'm with my boyfriend at midnight, and I say, "Oh, I'm hungry. Let's go out." And he says, "Oh, come on. What do you think?" I said, "Let's go out. Let's go out to eat. I'm hungry." I said, "Oh, okay." So we go to this restaurant. We get to the restaurant, and I'm not really hungry. Oh my God. So I didn't even realize what was happening. The lady we were behind a lady, and she's really bedraggled and smoking away. And back in the days when people smoked in restaurants, and the husband, they were arguing, and you know, and all of a sudden she goes, oh, so she's choking, right? So I try to get up to help her, but the chef comes out, no, I'm trained for the, do this and do that, and the Hamlet and everything else. Okay, no. So he did everything, nothing was happening, and he put it down on the floor. Her lips are starting to turn purple, and all of a sudden, a tear comes out of her eye, and she reaches up to me like this with her hand, and I grab her hand, and oh no, what I do is she grabs my hand, but I take my hand and I go right in through her throat, and with the 2 fingers, I grab something and pull it out, and it was a bay leaf that she could breathe out, but she couldn't breathe in.
Yeah.
It got stuck.
Wow.
So what happened was I just pulled it out, and immediately she was pink-cheeked, and everything else was unbelievable. And about 5 years later, I was in a store buying a magazine, and she came out with a beautiful pink outfit, and she says, "Oh, you're the one who saved my life," and now I'm a realtor and so happy. So I just go in trances and do it. One time I drove up in the wrong direction where the traffic was.
And for me, I have a knowing. My body is my partner. My ankle, my ankles, a knowing, an absolute knowing. When I met my husband, there was a knowing in my heart that I had to spend, God said, spend time with him. And even though it was begrudgingly, right, at that moment, because I'm like, but I did, and I listened. And many years later, right, we're here, there's a listening. And even though it doesn't make sense in the moment, possibly, it always does at the end. And so I don't question it at all. And sometimes it shows up in the form of bells and sounds, but it's having more of your senses. You've got 4 billion bits of information, and at any moment you can only receive 2,000 bits. And the level that you receive at is the level of vibration and frequency that you're operating with. And so I will hear it, I will see it. I remember once I saw something I didn't want to see, right? I saw something and I was like, oh God, I know this is part of my duty to now go take care of this, because I saw a future timeline that I didn't want to exist. And so I've quickly put on my big girl pants and moved into that direction of being able to really save a community that might have been lost if I didn't move in the direction and take the steps that I took for the community. It's like it's a muscle, you develop it.
Yeah, you just do it.
You just develop it, and then you get, and it's never for an end result, right? If there's an end result attached to it, then it's usually coming from your ego. But if there's just a knowing that this is the next step and there's nowhere for it to go, you're like, okay, this is the next step. It's not from my ego.
I think one sign is that it's not logical.
Yeah.
If you start doing something that's not logical, it's usually you're turned off the logic department and you're in another.
You're there. Great questions, Andrew. We love that you're here. We're going to go jump to the next question. And CK, we're coming to you next. So I know that I can't wait to see you, love. Andrew, thank you so much for being with us. And we look forward to your continued, anything you want to, closing words.
All right. That's been wonderful. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Thanks, Andrew.
Beautiful. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to mute you so fast. Go ahead. Anything else? You're not muted anymore.
No, that was fun. That was it.
Lovely. Yay. CK in the house.
How are you? Hello. I love what you just said about the ego self jumping in, because I realized, especially after Randy transitioned, as you know, I started getting all these messages, and I started then having the audacity to piece the puzzles together, not aware that there were 5 incoming puzzles and I was just making things worse. So for me, something will come in and I have to go, okay, that goes over there. And because I've got such a bear trap mind with my plasmacholinesterase deficiency, acetylcholine going crazy, I'm able to see how many pieces of puzzles are where. And they move into place. I don't move them into place. That's where the ego will go, oh yeah, I know what this is. This is a blue sky in this chapter, you know, or whatever, just chapter of life. So that's how I'm able to identify them. As soon as I attempt to use this,
Yes.
Yeah.
and say, okay, I know what's going on, that arrogance, just, that's okay. That's welcome to the ego. So anyway, that's
Like putting a blanket over it.
Yeah, just put that whole thing, putting a blanket over it. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I know you communicate with the unseen world. quite
yes.
And you've talked about keeping your heart at the 528 hertz frequency.
Yes.
Being really, really important. And
It's
so,
very important to the extent where my friends have all made 432 tuning at A, you know, CDs, because
yeah.
they can't turn on music otherwise with me. So in my case, what happens is as soon as I tune myself to the vibration of love, and I literally every morning before I go to my Ashtanga Mysore, I do the tuning of each one of my chakras, so that I feel I'm revving up the 7 spiral system, so that I can stay in that accordance. I can keep, you know, the heart at 528 and down a fifth 432. And it's in that space that I get downloads. It's in that space that, and never when I'm hoping it's going to happen.
Yes.
It's throwing it away, doing something mundane, listening. Listen, I have a PlayStation on YouTube, Kimmy C. It's got the 432, 528 list. When I'm doing something seemingly mundane, popping the skins off my sprouted almonds and my eyes are closed, and I'm chanting, and I'm just filling myself with love. The bigger the auric field of love, the more likelihood of incoming and then some.
And then some. What's beautiful is you know yourself and you know your formula, and that your formula, 12, at least 12 different varieties for each person.
Yes.
Logically, that whole being the bridge. And so this, you know, is a way that you stay connected to the unseen world. And
yes.
Yeah. Do you have any questions for us or anything that's coming up?
Any questions? Oh, I've got so many questions. All right. So this morning, I felt compelled, you know, so I practice Ashtanga Mysore, and this morning in my practice, when we were doing the opening prayer, my eyes are always closed, and suddenly I'm seeing a room full of spirits doing Vande Guru Nam Charab, you know, and I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh. And I said to the woman next to me, and I said, are you seeing this? And she said, no, that's just for you. But it was amazing. I mean, often when I close my eyes, I'll see glimpses, but not a room full of obvious people in Namaste chanting.
Fabulous.
That's amazing. It's often fun to fall in love with people too this way, right?
Yes.
So beautiful, because you see all of the prayers that have been prayed for them, they bring them forward, right?
Yes.
It's such a gift. And so again, CK, everyone has this possibility. Everyone can see this way.
Yeah.
Everyone
Yeah.
can connect this way.
Yeah.
And it's through your breath inhabiting your body, your breath taking the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system into deeper and deeper gaps. Wow. So that you can see the spaces in between, and you can, it's like slowing down the movie long enough for your ability to catch the higher vision, and then you stay focused on it. If anyone wants to start training themselves to see this way, sort of like when you look at a hot sidewalk and you see the rays
Yes, yes.
right? You start first looking for that on people's head, or in things like water and things that are living. You start looking for that wave frequency that occurs all around it. And once you start training your eyes to catch that, then you can go into a deeper, once you're trained there, you can go into deeper and deeper abilities to see with that. And it is accessed from the delta, the theta, the gamma waves in your brain. You have to go into a repetitive process that you're part of. So driving, quite often some people go into that space, right? Sometimes if you have a repetitive way of doing dishes, or like you said, popping the skins off almonds, that mindfulness practice creates the delta, gamma, these waves that allows your consciousness and your 365 or 360 senses to begin accessing and experiencing those with your chakra systems, with your higher elements, with your higher eyes. And so,
oh, I know what I'd love for you to explain. I'm one of these people that if I make a change in my life, it's not because I've thought, I should make a change in my life. It just happens organically. And so it was about this goes back several years now, but it was about 6 months into the Ashtanga Mysore, where I've been doing primary series every day, 6 days a week. And I said to one of my teachers one day, I said, I don't know what's the matter with me, but I could throw up over the smell of garlic. I used to love it.
yeah.
And he said, you're detoxing. Your body's preparing for meditative state. And so then I researched that scientifically, your alpha waves are disrupted with garlic.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. And
Amazing.
garlic and onions.
Yes.
Yes, garlic and onions and the beans don't.
So I've been 4 years now, no garlic, onion, leeks, chives, the whole family. And I have found, again, for me, and I'm only offering this as a tool, it takes an immense amount to calm me down. So the physical was the best avenue, because Ashtanga, the breath is so slow. But the missing link for me was the removal of that food group, because I think my magical thinking kept going into ego self, because I do have a vivid imagination. And after, it's been over 4 years now that I haven't touched that family, I find that I go into that magical realm that connects to the, the beta, etc. easier. So
I love that as we grow in our consciousness, we need less of the plant medicine from outside ourselves. And our sense of smell, our sense of taste, everything changes and becomes consistent with usually a fruitarian, very light fruit diet with water, and occasionally salts. Like your body craves salts, but it's a natural progression that occurs. And again, like Mani Vital, there are a lot of breath arians, and it's very easy to begin that process when you know yourself. And that knowing yourself, knowing what informs you versus affects you. Before garlic, onions, that whole family, you were eating it, it was not information, or it wasn't a possible choice for you. It just was. There was no distinguishing qualities between your brain waves. You tuned yourself to such a level that you're at the Jain, this particular group. And again, we could label it in the Greeks, we could label it in the Aztecs. It's not important to label the warrior self that's stepping in service to God, or to love, or to oneness, or to the universe, that says, I will no longer consume these. These will only be medicines if my body requires them for wellness.
Right.
And so you make more of the medicine on the inside from the waves, from the beta and theta, beta, delta, gamma waves. Less of the alpha. I love you so much. I love that you're part of this and this discussion. This was recorded, and I know you gave us permission to record it always. So thank you so much. Thank you.